Hey, tonight, let's step into the shadows of a time long gone. Not fairy tales, not shiny nights, but something darker, raw, real. A world where diseases were deadlier than swords, punishments were public, and food was barely food at all. Forget what Hollywood fed you. Castles, chivalry, and courtly love. This isn't that story. This is survival. In a world that didn't care if you lived or died. So take a breath. Let the hum of your fan be your only comfort, because where we're going, comfort is extinct. Close your eyes. It's 1325. The air is thick with smoke from peat fires. The sky a dull gray. You're in a small English village, nestled between two slow rivers and one slower belief that nothing changes and nothing ever will. You're not rich. You're not royal. You're just alive. And unfortunately, so are the fleas. You're lying on a pile of straw. Not a bed, not really. Just a sagging bundle of plant matter that's been soaked in months of your sweat. Crackles when you move. Something bites your ankle. Might be a flea. Might be a rat. You don't flinch. It's been like this for years. Above you, wooden beams weep moisture from last night's rain. One drop lands square on your forehead. You blink. Inhale. It smells like sheep, rot, and boiled cabbage. The holy trinity of medieval domestic life. Your stomach growls. But there's no meat. There was never meat. Only a thin stew made of yesterday's onions and something that might have once been barley. A dog barks in the distance. Not your dog. You can't afford a dog. Dogs are for nobles. Or for eating if times get worse. You stretch. Your back pops. The fire has gone out. Again. You're cold. The day begins. Or at least the part where you pretend to be useful in it. You pull on your single wool tunic, the same one you've worn since your 12th birthday. You're 22 now. Outside, the mud is deep enough to swallow your ankles. You trudge to the well. There's a line. There's always a line. The woman ahead of you coughs hard enough to spit blood. You step back, not out of concern, out of fear, because the coughing plague, it's moving fast, and you're next. You carry the water back. It sloshes. A little spills on your foot. You don't care. Your feet are already soaked with muck. Inside, your younger brother is chewing on a crust so hard it could be used as a weapon. Your mother is stitching a hole in someone else's shirt. You get paid 1 turnip for the job. It's going to be a good week. The village priest walks by your door. He blesses no one, just mutters and squints, clutching his holy book like it might fly away if he lets go. Last night, someone was dragged out into the square, accused of witchcraft, or stealing, or something. It's all the same. They don't come back. You don't talk about it. That's how you survive. There's a rumor that 2 villages over, someone saw the king's soldiers, that they had cloaks made of real cloth, that they carried bread. Bread. Imagine that. You chew your half-burnt oatcake and try not to imagine. The day drags. You clean muck from a cartwheel. You fetch wood. You help bury a child from the neighbor's hut. Died in the night. No one knows why. No one asks. The only certainty here is that nothing is certain. Not breath, not bread, not love. There is no privacy. No locks on doors. No secrets. Just whispers. And prayers whispered harder. At sunset, you sit by what's left of the fire. It flickers against the wet wall. Someone hums an old song. You don't know the words, but you hum anyway. The stars blink overhead, sharp and distant. You wonder what they look like from a better place, from a castle, or even a hill, but the thought drifts away. You lie down on your straw. The rats are back. You close your eyes. You survived another day. That's enough. The year is still 1325, and the scent of burning wood clings to everything. Your village sits hunched beneath a gray sky, huddled like a secret whispered too loudly. The homes, if you can call them that, are half-leaning wooden boxes patched with mud and hope. Chickens roam freely, unbothered by the mud or the murmurs of human suffering. It's damp. It always is. You pull your rough wool cloak tighter. It was your father's once. He died 2 winters ago. Fever, maybe plague, maybe a cold that turned cruel. No one knows for sure. Do they ever? The roads are rivers of filth. Waste flows where water should. A cartwheel turns through sludge. Behind it, a child follows barefoot, dragging firewood. You think she's 9, maybe 10. She doesn't blink when a rat scurries across her path. This is your neighborhood. No cobblestone charm here. No noble banners waving. No songs, unless you count the moans of the sick or the muttered prayers of the desperate. Across the muddy square, old Bernard is shouting again. He's seen omens in the sky again. You want to mock him, but last time he screamed, a cow gave birth to a calf with 2 heads. You've learned not to laugh too soon, because here, nothing surprises you anymore. You pass the baker's hut, or what remains of it. Smoke no longer curls from its chimney. He was arrested last week. They said he used sawdust in the bread. But you ate it anyway. Everyone did. It was cheaper and the sawdust gave it texture. The church bell tolls. Not for mass. For death. Someone else has gone. Again. The sound rolls through your bones like a ghost dragging chains. You pause and wonder, what keeps you going? A face flashes in your mind. Clara. Her laugh soft and quick like birdsong. Her touch warm even in the dead of winter. She works with the healer now, tending to the sick, risking it all. But she still smiles when she sees you. Maybe that's what survival is here. A reason to get through the next hour. Or maybe it's just habit. The market is alive, but barely. Stalls sag beneath their own weight. Rotten apples, cracked turnips, and one suspiciously skinny chicken in a cage. A woman offers you a strip of dried meat. She says it's beef. You're pretty sure it used to bark. No one haggles anymore. There's no point. You take what you can. You give what you have. And you don't ask questions you don't want answers to. You pass a group of monks preaching salvation. They say the plague is a punishment, that God is angry, that sin is spreading faster than the sickness. You want to argue, but then again, your hands aren't clean either. Not in this world. Down an alley, a man paints symbols on the wall with ashes and spit. He's trying to ward off spirits. He doesn't notice when 2 soldiers approach. No one screams. No one watches. Everyone knows. Some vanish before nightfall. Even you. You've done things. Quiet things. Things you don't name. Because in this time, silence is survival. But tonight you can't sleep. The moon spills silver across your floorboards, and your stomach growls like a caged beast. You think about Clara. You think about escape. But where would you go? The forest? Filled with wolves and worse. The next town? Ravaged by plague last spring. There's no better out there. Just different flavors of worse. So, you curl into your corner, blanket clutched to your chest, and whisper the old rhyme. Fire burn, shadows fade, keep the sickness far away. Wind be still, hearts be brave, let the night forget my name. It doesn't do anything, but it helps. Sleep comes slow, like everything else in this century. You wake to coughing. Not yours. Someone else's. Rough, rasping, wet. It leaks through the walls like cold air. Someone next door is sick. Again. Or maybe still. It's hard to tell anymore. You sit up slowly. Your back aches. Straw doesn't forgive. And the blanket you use is more holes than wool. But you're alive. At least for today. Outside, morning hasn't so much arrived as it has crept in. A thin light spills through the cracks in the wooden slats. Gray. Reluctant. Your boots are stiff. Damp from yesterday. You shove your feet in anyway. There's no breakfast. You didn't eat last night either. But you've learned how to be friends with hunger. You let it ride on your shoulders like an unwelcome bird, pecking when it pleases. You step outside and the village greets you in coughs and crows. The healer's hut has a red mark smeared on the door. That's new. Inside, you know Clara is working, boiling herbs, whispering comfort, trying to hold back the tide with a bucket. She sees you and smiles. A small one. It doesn't reach her eyes. Another one? You ask. She nods. You don't ask who. If they're still alive, you'll find out later. If they're not, well, you'll hear the bell. A rooster calls. Late, lazy, uncertain. You scratch your beard and wander toward the well. The water smells like iron and roots, but it's cold and clean enough. A boy runs past you, barefoot and laughing. Behind him, an old woman throws a boot and curses. It's the liveliest thing you've seen all week. And for a moment, just a flicker, you remember what joy feels like. Then the wind shifts. You smell smoke, and not the good kind. They say it was lightning, that the fire started in a barn 2 villages over. But fire doesn't care about borders. You see the first smoke cloud just before noon. Dark, angry, curling toward the sky like a warning. By sundown, half the forest's edge is glowing. Red, orange, hungry. People gather near the fields, watching silently. No one speaks. What's there to say? It's not your village, yet, but it's close enough to smell. You help carry buckets. The well's almost dry by now. Still, you pass them down the line. Water sloshing, arms aching, mud thick on your boots. Someone says a prayer. Another spits. You look at the trees. The firelight dances in the distance like something alive. You wonder if it's punishment, divine or otherwise, or maybe it's just nature, tired of being carved into farms and firewood. That night, you don't go home. No one does. You sleep near the square, on the stone ground, surrounded by others, huddled together like animals waiting for a storm. Clara's beside you. Her hands are blistered from mixing salves. Her face is streaked with ash. You say nothing. You just offer your shoulder. She leans in. Somewhere in the dark, someone starts humming. A tune with no words. A lullaby for no one. The fire doesn't reach the village that night, but it reaches something inside you. Something ancient. You don't sleep well, but you don't die either. And that here is enough. The fire is gone. What it didn't burn, it left black. Charred trees lean like tired soldiers. The sky is still tinted gray, as if it hasn't yet forgiven the earth. But the village moves on because it must. A pig escaped during the chaos. It's now the town's greatest mystery and top entertainment. Half the children have sworn they've seen it running near the granary. One boy claims it spoke Latin. You know it didn't, but you also know it's probably smarter than most of the council. The days stretch long again. The work returns. Repairing fences, checking roofs, burying what couldn't be saved. You help mend the baker's wall. He offers you a piece of stale bread as payment. It's more generous than it sounds. You eat it slowly. Let the crust scratch your teeth. Let the weight of the day dissolve in each chew. A dog sleeps under your bench. You don't know whose it is. It doesn't matter. Things belong to everyone here or to no one at all. And just when you start to think maybe, just maybe, the worst is behind you, you hear the bell. Not once, not twice, for times. You stop chewing. The dog lifts its head. Someone has died. Her name was Agnes. You didn't know her well. She lived near the edge of the village. Spun wool, kept to herself. But now she's gone, and suddenly everyone remembers her better than they actually did. She used to sing, someone says. She always shared her soup, says another. She had the best apples, claims a third. You're not sure any of it's true. But in death, even quiet lives get a little louder. Her body is wrapped in linen. There's not much ceremony. Prayer. A handful of dirt. No one cries exactly, but eyes stay on the ground longer than usual. You help carry the body. The linen is damp. Your hands smell like rosemary and earth by the time it's done. The priest mutters something about plague, but no one repeats it. No one dares. That night, Clara says she's afraid. She doesn't mean of dying. She means of what comes before it. The gasping, the fever, the silence. You tell her a story, something made up, about a kingdom of stars and a river that sings. She falls asleep before you finish. You stay awake, because someone has to. You count the stars. Lose track at 19. Try again. Sleep, when it finally comes, tastes like ash and candle wax. Morning smells like smoke and potatoes. You wake up before the rooster, not because you're ambitious, but because your back hurts and the straw has molded into a shape that resembles a broken question mark. Clara is still asleep. You hear her soft breathing steady, but not quite peaceful. Outside, the village is stirring. Quietly, carefully. The fire might be out, but the fear still lingers, like soot that won't wash off. You make your way to the well. The wooden bucket creaks louder than your bones. The water is cold, metallic. You splash some on your face. The cold doesn't wake you up. It reminds you that you were never really asleep. A merchant arrives, not from your village. His horse is too clean, his beard too trimmed. He sets up near the church, selling salt, dried beans, and something he calls medicinal powder. No one asks what's in it. You trade a few eggs for a handful of herbs. You don't believe in their magic, but Clara does. And belief here is sometimes stronger than truth. As you walk home, the wind picks up, carries with it the sound of coughing. A new kind, rattling, wet, deep in the chest. You don't turn your head. You keep walking, fast, but your hands shake the rest of the day. They say it came from the coast, on the back of a rat, in the belly of a ship, in the breath of a stranger. You're not sure which version you believe, but it doesn't matter now. It's here. 2 more people fell ill today. The blacksmith's apprentice and old Margaret, the woman who used to braid flowers into her hair no matter the season. They've been moved to the edge of the village. Quarantined, the priest says. Abandoned, others mutter. But nobody dares speak it above a whisper. You visit Margaret's house after dark. Leave a small loaf of bread at the door. Knock once. Run. Your feet slip in the mud. Your heart doesn't slow until you reach home. Clara sees your hands trembling. She doesn't ask questions. She just pulls the blanket higher around your shoulders and lights a candle. The flame flickers. You both watch it. There is silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that means everything is about to change. It doesn't take long for the rhythm of death to become normal. The bell tolls every morning now. Not for timekeeping. Not for prayer. For counting. One toll. Then two. Then silence. Then again. Your ears no longer flinch. Your eyes don't widen. You just listen. And keep kneading dough with fingers that feel increasingly like someone else's. Bread is harder to make now. Not just because of the shortages, but because the flour carries a strange smell. Earthy, sour, like it knows it's being stretched too thin. You eat less. Clara eats even less than that. There's an unspoken agreement in your house. Whoever is strongest eats last. But no one feels strong anymore. Outside, children no longer play. They just sit, knees drawn to their chests, eyes watching adults for cues on how to act. But the adults are just as lost. One boy picks up a stick and draws in the dirt. Not a game, just a habit, a memory of joy. He draws a sun, then crosses it out. Clara starts coughing. Not loudly, not often, but enough. It begins with a scratch in her throat, then a wince when she drinks, then silence. The silence is the worst part. You try to act normal. Ask her about the chickens, the weather, that strange man who offered to sell you a plague amulet in exchange for 3 onions and a favor. She smiles, but it's weak, like the smile's too heavy for her face. At night, you stay up and watch her sleep. You count her breaths. You listen for change. But every sound feels like a change. Every creak in the wood. Every shift in the wind. Every cough in the distance. You light a candle again. This time not for warmth. Not even for light. But for hope. And hope these days burns lower than wax. The village starts folding in on itself. Doors that once stood open all day are now bolted shut, even during sunlight. Markets are gone. The sounds of sellers shouting prices, children whining for sweets, livestock braying in complaint, all replaced by wind. The wind has too much room now. You walk to the old baker's shop one morning, or maybe it's late afternoon. Time is blurry. The doors open. Not a good sign. You step in. Flour dust coats everything, like snow that decided never to melt. There's a loaf on the table untouched. A small chair is knocked over. No bodies. No blood. Just absence. And that somehow feels worse. Back home, Clara asks if the baker's still alive. You pause. Then you lie, because sometimes lying is the only way to love someone. You remember a festival from years ago, before everything, bunting strung across houses, music made from broken instruments and joy. You danced, badly, but danced. Clara had worn blue. She'd laughed until her sides hurt. You remember that most. The way she'd held her ribs while giggling like the world was ending from too much happiness. You tell her that story now. You skip the part where you tripped over a pig. You embellish the music. Say the drummer had fire in his hands. That the wine tasted like stars. That someone had released doves that flew in the shape of a heart. Clara smiles, eyes closed. And for a second, she's there again. Dancing, laughing, alive. Memory is the kindest liar of all. Winter comes early, not with snow but with silence. The village is quiet in a way it has never been before. Even the birds seem to have stopped trying. No songs, no warnings, just cold feathers and empty nests. You watch your breath fog the air and try to remember what warm used to feel like. There's a knock on your door. It startles you. Sound is a rare visitor these days. You open it slowly. And there's the old shepherd, Thomas. His beard is longer, and his eyes are hollow, like he's misplaced something important inside his skull. He asks if he can sit. You nod. He doesn't speak for a while, just sits there, staring at the fire like it owes him answers. Then he says, "I think God left." You don't respond. What can you say? Maybe he did. Clara is sick. Not the kind of sick you fix with herbs or prayers. You can see it in her eyes, how they flicker, like candlelight in a draft. You bring her soup. She doesn't eat it. You tell her stories. She barely listens. You sing the lullaby her mother used to hum. She closes her eyes. You hold her hand. She squeezes it once. Then nothing. The silence is louder now. You step outside and look at the sky, wondering if the stars feel lonely, too. For the first time in your life, you understand why some people never come back from grief. Because it's not a place. It's a fog that teaches you to breathe without hope. And yet you do breathe. One more time, then another. Because that's what the living do. Even when they don't want to. Section 17. Time slows. Not in a way that you can measure. Not like the dragging of a clock's hand or the sun refusing to rise. It's something deeper, quieter. It's the kind of slow that lives in your bones, that folds around your breath and says, "You are still here." You wake before dawn. The fire is out, the hearth cold. You don't relight it. Not yet. There's a comfort now in the cold. Like it agrees with you. You walk outside, bare feet on frostbitten ground, and feel each blade of ice bite your soles. No one is awake. Or maybe everyone is. There are no more screams in the night. No more hammering from the blacksmith shop. No more gossip by the well. Just stillness. You pass by the chapel. It smells of old wax and ash. Someone lit a candle there last night. Just one. You don't know who. It's burned all the way down, melted into the stone. The wax dried like tears. You sit where Clara used to sit, where the sun would catch in her curls like spun copper. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, you let yourself cry. Not loud, not for show, just a quiet release, like a prayer you don't believe in anymore. They say spring always comes. They say it with the same certainty children say the sun will rise tomorrow. But what if it doesn't? What if spring decides this year isn't worth it? You remember planting with your father. Seeds tucked into earth like secrets, covered carefully as though the soil could feel shame. He used to hum. Not a song, just a vibration from his chest, like he was part of the world and wanted it to know. You hum now, just a little. The ground is hard, but not frozen. Not yet. You push a few seeds into the dirt, not because you believe they'll grow, but because that's what you do. Because that's what he did. Because that's what people who haven't given up completely still try. You hear a child's laugh. You freeze. You haven't heard that sound in months. You turn, heart in your throat, and there she is. Not Clara, but someone else's daughter. Barefoot, hair wild, holding a stick like it's a sword. She smiles at you, gap-toothed and defiant. Life, it seems, has decided to try again. Maybe it's foolish, but maybe, just maybe, it's enough. Winter doesn't arrive with snow this year. Comes with silence. No carts clatter over cobblestones. No dogs bark in the distance. No children's giggles echo through narrow alleys. Just the sound of wind through wooden beams. A cough in the night. A whisper through cracked lips. You keep the fire burning longer now. Not because of the cold, but because darkness feels too big otherwise. Clara sleeps more. Dreams longer. You don't wake her when she talks in her sleep. She dreams of sunlight. She dreams of her mother's bread, still warm. She dreams of summers that don't end in silence. You listen, because dreams are a kind of music, and music is rare now. The spring again. Somehow, grass breaks through dead earth. A bird sings, just one, but it's enough to feel like a choir. Clara is gone, her shoes still by the door. You keep them there. You walk the path she loved most, through the thinning woods. The breeze is warmer. It carries old scents. Time, moss, life. You sit on the same rock where she once read stories aloud. And you speak to her, voice barely above the wind. We made it through the dark. Love. Or at least, far enough. A squirrel darts by, unafraid. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's proof that the world hasn't ended, just changed. And you're still here, still walking, still breathing, still remembering. The Middle Ages weren't just plague and war and pain. They were also people who loved, who hoped, who endured, like you, like us. So rest now, close your eyes, let